Dupli-Kate has been, weirdly enough to me, one of the most requested characters to have a complete history video made about. There are a lot of channels jumping on the Invincible bandwagon, but we like to think we do it best, so we figured we would push her video out a bit quicker than we originally planned. But before we begin, consider dropping a like and leaving a comment on who you'd like to see a video on next. It takes half a second, and it's the only way to tell the YouTube algorithm that more people should see videos from the mighty Dupli-Kate, or Kate Cha, is the Invincible Universe's version of Multiple-Man from Marvel Comics. Her ability to create instantaneous copies of herself, who can all make instantaneous copies of themselves at a second's notice, makes her an extremely formidable foe for any villain not bringing an entire army to the battle, which a lot of them do. I'm looking at you, Flaxens. As we begin, keep in mind that this video is not going to cover every single issue, panel, or conversation that Dupli-Kate has, but it will cover the vast majority of the most important elements of her comic history. Additionally, in order for the story to make the most sense, I may not necessarily cover every event as it occurred in the comics, but rather in a way that presents it most logically. So without further ado, today I bring you the complete comic history of Dupli-Kate. Dupli-Kate's first comic book appearance was in Invincible #2, written by Robert Kirkman and drawn by Ryan Ottley. Dupli-Kate was introduced as a member of the Teen Team along with Robot, Adam Eve, and Rexplode. You guys probably already know all of this considering you've seen the show and probably a number of our other videos, so let's zoom right past her first appearance and dive into her mystical origins. Kate's mystical origins are shown in issue number 25, which is kind of a slept-on issue by collectors. This issue has a number of backup stories that outline the origins of basically everybody in the Guardians of the Globe in one issue. In ancient China, there was a ruthless warlord named Feng Cha. Oh god, 2003 was just awful for this type of stuff. Anyway, Feng Cha fought his way through the corrupt forces of the Emperor of China in order to take control of the country. He made his way to the evil Emperor and killed him. However, before the Emperor died, he placed a curse on Feng Cha's family line. The curse stated that the 7th generation of Cha's 7th grandchild would be burdened with a family too large for him to care for, and the burden would drive him mad. And that is the most specifically random curse ever. Like, out of all curses you can throw out, this is the one that the Emperor kept in his back pocket for like a deathbed use. Fast forward a few hundred years, and Dupli-Kate's father, Sing Cha's wife, was giving birth to their first children, who happened to be twins. Sing happened to be the fated descendant of the curse that would wreak havoc upon their family line. Sing's unnamed wife died in childbirth, leaving Sing to raise Kate and her twin brother Paul alone. While the children were still young, they began to multiply so much that Sing lost his mind and was committed to a mental asylum. Paul and Kate became orphans and were given to the state, who then gave them to scientists to be studied. Eventually, after a number of years of intense training, they both learned to control their powers and became a crime-fighting duo. They split up though, and Kate joined the Teen Team, while Paul went on to, well, we'll talk more about Paul in a minute. When we first meet Kate, she's a member of the Teen Team and involved in all sorts of fun adventures like fighting the Mauler twins and meeting teen heartthrob and Viltrumite bad boy Mark Grayson, aka Invincible. He's so dreamy, that Mark. But probably the first major long-term plot point she's involved in is home wrecking. In the beginning of the series, Rexplode and Adam Eve are dating, and Eve comes back to the Teen Team base in issue 6 to find Rex and Kate hooking up. Eve then confides in Mark, but we all know how that power couple ends up, so we don't need to talk more about them. Kate continues to date Rexplode casually for a period of time, but ultimately that relationship falls apart as well. Robot is promoted to the leader of the Guardians of the Globe after Omni-Man kills the acting team, and Dupli-Kate is chosen as a member of the new team along with Monster Girl, Rexplode, Shrinking Ray, and Black Samson. The goddamn Flaxens invade for the second time in issue 14, and Dupli-Kate is part of the Guardians of the Globe team that faces them. This time, however, the rapid aging that affected them when they faced Mark and Omni-Man earlier in the series is nowhere to be found. They end up fighting wave after wave of Flaxens for 2 hours straight, but once the secret of the Flaxens' time dilation bracelets is discovered, the threat is neutralized pretty much immediately. She also fights alongside the team in a battle against an unknown alien threat that just kinda ends out of the blue, and she's also present in the battle where Mark and Titan try to take down Machine Head, but everybody gets wrecked by Battle Beast. Actually, come to think of it, Kate and Rex are probably the only two people in that battle that are actually successful because they're able to take down and defeat an electric-based villain named Kursk. In a cruel twist of irony for Rex, Dupli-Kate is gonna dupla-fornicate, and in issue 25, Rexplode catches his multiple mistress cheating on him with Abe Lincoln himself, the Immortal. From this point on, Kate actually begins a long-term committed relationship with the Immortal that lasts throughout the entire series, eventually getting engaged. Some might even say that the homewrecker becomes the homemaker. Dupli-Kate is involved in a ton of battles here, but is mostly a backseat character, just used in action sequences. Immortal and Kate do eventually sneak off and get married in issue 38, but the ceremony isn't shown. Dupli-Kate does tell Rex, though, that if he had shown her even a bit of compassion when they were hooking up, they may still be together. Shortly thereafter, the Guardians of the Globe members who are least susceptible to a Sequid infection travel to space to intercept a Martian warship. You guys know what the Sequids are by now, you don't need me to explain them. Kate is not one of the Guardians chosen, but she is deployed on an equally valuable mission to Wyoming with Rexplode to stop the Lizard League from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Kate and Rex fight the overwhelming forces of the Lizard League. However, even with dozens of duplicates, both Kate and Shrinking Ray are killed by Lizard League member Komodo Dragon, the muscle of the group. Additionally, Rex gets shot in the head by King Lizard, but survives. Immortal is obviously distraught from the news that Kate had died. He had lost countless partners over the centuries he had been alive, but assumed that he would have more time with Kate. While Dupli-Kate has died a hero's death, she will be remembered for her time. I'm just kidding, she's not actually dead, let's move on. In Invincible issue 46, we learn that Dupli-Kate wasn't dead after all, not completely. All of Kate's copies share the same consciousness and memories, meaning if she has 10 copies out there, they all know every thought that she has. So as long as her original body is okay or one clone, she can always duplicate herself from that without really losing anything. Kate calls for the Immortal to meet her at a secret location in the mountains. She needs help from heroes she trusts to stop her out-of-control brother, Multi-Paul. That's right, 2 siblings, both with duplication-based pun names. Kirkman's a god. So next, we meet up with 2 minor characters named Fightmaster and Dropkick, and they're pulling a Nick Cage and trying to steal the Declaration of Independence from the Smithsonian when Mark and Rex arrive to stop them. And the plan is working pretty much swimmingly until Rex is ambushed by Multi-Paul, who's aligned with Fightmaster and Dropkick, and he arrives to exact revenge on Rex, who he believes was working with the Lizard League to kill his sister for some reason. It does not make sense. Honestly, Multi-Paul is kind of a badass. He shows up and completely overwhelms Rex and Invincible with multiple Pauls. He would have at the very least killed Rex if it wasn't for the arrival and interjection of Immortal and Kate, which is obviously a big shock to both Rex and Mark and Paul, who all thought she died in the battle in Wyoming. Kate talks Paul down from his assault, and we learn that it was Paul who made the recommendation for her to live her life through the clones to avoid potentially dying, like, she almost did. But Mark, in a blink and you'll miss it move, knocks Paul's main body out cold in one punch, because Paul's a criminal. Kate rejoins the Guardians of the Globe and works with the team sparingly, even helping take out Doc Seismic with the help of Darkwing and the Reaniman, as well as the Mauler twins with the help of Invincible and his brother Oliver. Kate and Immortal buy a giant home, and we also learn that Kate has her eyes set on kids. Kate next fights in the Invincible War against the Interdimensional Grayson Gang, or G-Unit as some people have called them. These marks are brutal, and a lot of Kate's clones die in the fight, and Immortal gets his head chopped off again, but he does survive. These guys, they die a lot, it's their thing. You know who doesn't survive the Invincible War, though? Kate's old flame, Rexplode, who dies by turning himself into a living suicide bomb. Kate is obviously a bit broken up about the death and attends his funeral, but overall continues living her life with Immortal. Now, a good bit of time later in the series, we see that Kate and Immortal have partially retired and have 2 kids now, Abraham and Mary. Mark and Eve come over for dinner, but spending time together with Kate's children causes Eve to break down and admit to Mark that she was pregnant with Mark's child but had an abortion when he left to fight in the Viltrumite War. This is covered more in Eve's video. In issue 100, Immortal officially returns to active duty following Dinosaurus' attack on the planet, but things get a bit rough when Rex kinda takes over the world. If you want a good primer for this portion of the video, check out Robot's video. Anyway, Immortal and Kate are 2 of the heroes he targets and tries to imprison in an effort to avoid his plans being overthrown. They do end up escaping Robot, whose invasion and betrayal of his friends definitely takes a toll on him emotionally. Kate and Immortal end up hiding out elsewhere to avoid apprehension back in the old cabin that they used a while ago. You've seen it in the video. Kate and Immortal attempt to recruit Mark and Eve for a coup, but Mark and Eve had already set their sights on leaving Earth once and for all, which was kind of an arrangement made by Mark with Rex. This temporarily damages Mark's relationship with the Immortal family. Later, Immortal allows himself to be captured as a diversionary tactic to allow Kate and his family to escape the clutches of Rex. Unbeknownst to Rex, the other part of the plan was to have Immortal taken into the holding cells under the Pentagon that Robot was keeping the other imprisoned heroes in, where Immortal blows himself up with a bomb, freeing a number of other heroes to continue to reject Robot's rule. When Mark travels to the past, he meets the former version of Kate and the rest of the teen team. I don't like this arc. It's important, but I don't like it, as I've said in other videos. And while Mark helps the teen team stop a bunch of major threats like the Flaxons with his advanced knowledge of the future, ultimately none of this really matters because Mark goes back to the future without any of this impacting anything. Much later, Kate and Immortal, as well as their children, Abe and Mary, all help Mark fight the forces of Robot. Fortunately, the fight isn't very long, and Immortal, Kate, and their children all end up fine in the end. Immortal even ends up overseeing the now defeated Rex's brain, which was harvested from his body and used to continue to improve the world. And that is kind of where Kate's story ends as well. She presumably continues to live out the rest of her days with her family and husband. We never really see past that final checkpoint with Immortal, Rex's brain, and her and Mark. Ultimately though, her and her husband were influential in almost every major battle in the series. And that, as they say, is that. Dupli-Kate is an awesome member of the teen team and Guardians who is an influential character in many pivotal moments of the series. I hope you learned a lot in this video, and if you did, consider liking and subscribing and doing all that other crap YouTubers ask you to do. This has been Nick with Key Issues, thanking you for watching, and remember the motto, duplicate over everything.